Ladies and gentlemen, lovely viewers, welcome to yet another Capricorn Group Inspire session, and thank you for tuning in. Whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or the group's internal platform, welcome, and make sure to like, comment, share, and tag a friend, and let's get inspired. Now, our Inspire session for this morning is themed Women Making an Impact, inspiring the next generation of women leaders. As a connector of positive change, Capricorn Group believes in inspiring and developing female leaders and understanding that it is our responsibility to empower and encourage all women to embrace opportunities and possibilities beyond the limits of their imagination. Today, we do so by leveraging on the collective wisdom and knowledge of women who have decades of experience in the leadership positions. I'm excited to introduce to you three phenomenal women who have made tremendous impact in their respective industries over the years, truly exemplifying what it means to be connectors of positive change. Speaking first is Berenice Hans. Berenice was appointed as Bank Windhoek's Managing Director in 2016. In her capacity as Managing Director, Berenice leads the bank in all spheres of business. A chartered accountant by profession, Berenice has an extensive career in banking and served on several boards in diverse disciplines such as telecommunications, power distribution, non-bank financial regulation, life assurance, asset management, and fishing and marine resources. Currently, she serves on the Bank Windhoek Board of Directors, Capricorn Asset Management, and Velvetia Insurance Brokers. Under her guidance, Bank Windhoek won various national and international awards, most notably the Bankers Bank of the Year Award, the Best Namibian Bank of the Year Award, as well as the Best Corporate Bank in Namibia Award. On a personal level, Berenice won the accolade of Namibia Businesswoman of the Year 2015-2016. Also speaking today is Marlies Horn, who is one of the only 3 registered accredited public relations practitioners in Namibia and serves as a vice chairperson of the accreditation committee of PRISA. She has made more than 25 years of, let me repeat that again. She has more than 25 years of experience in the corporate world, of which 15 is on the executive management level. Her areas of expertise include corporate communications in all expertise, including corporate communications, brand marketing, advertising, investor relations. Marlies made significant strides being Bank Windhoek's first public relations officer, and then also the youngest appointed female on the executive management team of Bank Windhoek. Now, in 2016, she was appointed as a group executive, followed by various roles, including head of brand and citizenship, and more recently as Capricorn Group Executive, Brand and Corporate Affairs. Marlies chairs Investor Relations Committee of the group and is also the group principal risk owner of the reputation risk. She, that's not all, is also currently serving as the acting head of the newly established Capricorn Foundation. Now we have Essie Chiming Chase. Essie Chiming Chase, Senior Counsel, is a practicing senior advocate of the High Court of Namibia and is also the acting judge of the High Court of Namibia as of 1st October 2020. She has acted as a judge of the High Court of Namibia in 2011, 2013, and 2015. She is a member of the Society of Advocates of Namibia, specializing in commercial and constitutional litigation, and has also taught legal drafting at the Justice Training Center. This is fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. Essie serves as an independent director of the Capricorn Group, and her other board memberships include the Legal Assistance Center. In 1994, Essie was admitted as a barrister at law in England and then subsequently appointed legal officer in the Office of the Attorney General of Namibia. After a stint as senior manager, investment promotions at the Offshore Development Company, where she promoted foreign investment in export processing zones in Namibia, she completed her articles at Coop and Partners and was admitted as a legal practitioner of the High Court of Namibia in April 2002. In 2017, she was awarded senior counsel status. There you have it, viewers, lovely ladies and gentlemen. Let's discover the journey of these three women and be inspired to ascend to a stronger, more courageous self. You are welcome to pose your questions to our speaker on our social media platforms. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy.
Thank you, Grace, and good morning, viewers. Leadership to me is summed up as follows. It is a choice. It is not a rank, a role, a position, or a title. When you make that choice, you take up the mantle of accountability that goes with it, and you sacrifice self-interest for the good of others. When I reflect on my leadership journey, I can hardly believe how fast the years went by. 23 years ago, I began my traineeship as an article clerk with EY. This was during the time when there was not a single black Namibian woman qualified as a chartered accountant, and a general perception existed that we would not make it, especially given the statistics. It was a very difficult time for me in my life, both personally and professionally, and some of the difficulties I faced included not being able, for example, to afford a car, yet having to work at many remote sites. And at some of these sites, taxis wouldn't go. So it was quite a challenge to get about as an article clerk. I was also constantly being mistaken for the new receptionist wherever I went. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a receptionist, but if you're not the receptionist, that can present quite a few challenges. And lastly, sometimes not being taken seriously by clients was also a challenge. I learned to sacrifice for that which I wanted to achieve, and also to remain very focused whilst navigating the demands of work and study. And after qualifying as a chartered accountant, I joined Nampower. Now, my career at Nampower was one of the highlights for me and one of the most rewarding experiences I had. I learned staying power amidst the tempest of being a new mom, newly married, and work pressure. And it was also always very tempting to leave and do something else. Now, working with visionary executives forced me to keep up, and I believe that during this time, I grew at an accelerated pace, and I'll always be thankful for that experience. My time there really helped me gain more of an in-depth understanding of the industry, and I was also exposed to very complex regional and international negotiations and contracts at a very young age. I was trusted with great responsibility, which I cherished immensely. Now, although the options to change jobs every 2 years for a better salary seemed attractive, over time, I saw, when looking at my friends and colleagues, that often this road leads to your career moving sideways and not upwards, because you don't ever gain depth, only surface knowledge. I will never forget the words a colleague, Neville Beckman, said to me one day. No one can empower you. You have to take the power. They can give it to you, but empowerment only happens when you take it. Those words changed my life, and they changed my career. I no longer felt I needed permission to step up and do what I needed to do. I started showing up as me, and that made all the difference. I realized that I had to I realized that I had to stay true to who I am and to my values. It is better to be 100% of me than 50% of someone else. Ladies, I'm not perfect, and I will never be, but I must be true to what I stand for, and respect that in others as well. I learned to embrace who I was and what I brought, not thinking more or less of myself than I thought of others. I must acknowledge that men have greatly contributed to my success, especially my husband, who is my greatest supporter. My walk with God deepened during this time. I knew that I was in His hands, and that despite whatever I had planned for my life, His plans were better. It was never about me, but always about His plan and His purpose for me. And I found that very humbling, and to a large extent, that kept things in perspective for me. Now, the next phase of my journey began as a banker. This was not something I ever imagined doing, but I've grown to love it, and 12 years later, I'm still at it. The banking sector is probably one of the most difficult, competitive, and demanding industries to be in. I've had to trust God even in times when things did not make sense. Being resilient became a state of being rather than a choice. The biggest change I've had to make were the changes within me. As you progress on your leadership journey, there comes a place and a time where the hardest work left is the work you do on yourself. I had habits, and I still have some of them, responses and perceptions I had to change, or at least try to change. And I learned that often how we look at things is what makes all the difference. This is still work in progress, as I've said earlier. I'll always have to work on myself. But having a mentor has really helped me contextualize things differently, challenge my conventions, and act swiftly when I've needed to do so. As a leader, you will be tested continuously, and some tests we may fail. But as Nelson Mandela said, I never lose. I win or I learn. Every day is about learning from failure, learning new skills, time management, navigating complexity, and making a positive impact where possible. To the women aspiring to be leaders, what people see on the outside, our age, our gender, size, etc., has nothing to do with what you and I are capable of. God has put everything in us to be what He called us to be. And that is true for everyone out there as well as in the studio. A story I like to tell is a story about a couple of frogs that went hopping in the forest very merrily until two frogs fell into a hole. Now, the frogs on the outside tried frantically to assist the two frogs that fell into the hole, whilst the frogs inside the hole tried to jump up. Now, after much effort, the frogs on the outside gave up, and they shouted into the hole, and they said to these two frogs, "Give up, there's no way we can help you, there's simply no way you'll get out. We would advise you just to give up." And after a couple of further attempts to get out, one of the frogs gave up and eventually died. But the other frog, it was a she-frog, continued to jump, and she jumped and jumped higher every single time until she emerged from this hole. Now, when the other frogs asked her, "What kept you going? Why did you choose not to give up?" she replied and said, "I heard you cheering for me." Now, the 2 points I'd like to make when I tell this story are that you will have many people tell you all your life, including yourself, that it is too hard, quit, don't try, etc. Choose not to listen to it. Being positive works. As a leader, you can shape behavior so much better by being positive rather than by being negative. And like the second frog, the she-frog, she could have heard or chosen to imagine that negative things were being said, but she rather, in the absence of clarity, chose to be inspired by assuming that it was a positive message, that her fellow frogs were encouraging her, and that's what we need to do. I had to grow thick skin and become more aware of my impact on others. Having said that, though, never ignore your intuition and always be discerning. Essie and Marlies, I'm sure both of you can relate. I identify with a quote which reads, "Embrace conflict as an asset because there is no movement without friction." I believe there is no authenticity if everyone agrees all the time. And that doesn't mean that we need to disagree for the sake of disagreement. Perspectives must be challenged. Healthy debates must thrive. Iron sharpens iron, as my younger brother Rikambura always likes to quote from Proverbs. Leaders must drive change and create momentum. Otherwise, meaningful value cannot be created. There must be no comfort zones. Progress will cause dissent. Constantly tread new roads and embrace new challenges. So often we talk about the vision, we talk about the values, and we talk about our expectations of others. But leaders cannot sell that which they don't have. No one will buy it. We can only influence people when we sell that which we live, be it the vision, the values, the behaviors, or our standards. It is true that there are glass ceilings that exist and that serve as barriers that often exclude women. Let us live as though these obstacles don't exist. Let us dream as though they don't exist. That way, they are diminished in our minds, and we are not confined by the limitations or shackles others may try to put on us. Being oblivious to the restrictions gender may have placed on me is the only way I could become the person I am today. I'm not saying that I don't embrace my femininity. I fully embrace being a female, but I will not be shackled and held back because of a gender bias. And as a result of that, I have had the privilege to become the first woman, and by the grace of God, not the last woman, to lead a commercial bank. Esther Kali and Martha Murorwa, I salute you. Marlies and Essie, I salute you. Every woman has a story. To every woman out there, whether you are leading a household, a professional firm, or a company, I salute you. We've come a long way, but there's so much still to be done. On that note, we must join hands against femicide and against gender-based violence. Enough is enough. On that note, I'll hand over to Marlies, who'll be talking a lot more about the obstacles women face, as well as the attitudes and inbuilt mechanisms women generally tend to possess that help us overcome these obstacles. Marlies, over to you.
Thank you very much, Berenice, for your inspiring words. And you know what resonates with me is the fact that when people look at you now, you're successful, you're the MD of Bank Windhoek, they don't know the history and the journey that you had and the challenges and the obstacles along the way. You know, and you make it seem easy, which is a big compliment for you. But you know, we need to acknowledge that it's not easy for women to get where you are. So thank you for sharing that special journey with us. So I will, as Berenice said, share some obstacles that we face in our daily lives. Because ladies, we must recognize that most females in or pursuing leadership roles face a steep uphill battle filled with many seemingly unsurmountable obstacles. And we can understandably get discouraged, and I have too along the way and in my journey. Each one of us have a different journey, but those of us that do persevere will find the climb up the corporate ladder a rewarding experience and have a fulfilling career. So I want to share some factors and obstacles that I've observed over many years that deter women like us from actively pursuing a career, and specifically leadership roles, and that are holding us back. Unfortunately, not all men can deal with a strong woman. So choose the men in your life carefully, whether it's a partner, a husband, friend, team members, or a boss who will support you. I am very grateful to have a husband and other males in my circle, friends that support and encourages me every day. But I understand that not everyone is so fortunate. I do believe that how we are brought up have a major impact on our self-esteem and confidence to be successful. If you are brought up in an environment where traditional roles of boys and girls are emphasized, you are less likely to have an ambition. We need to tell our daughters to find their passion and strengths and own their careers. I've been very lucky to grow up in a loving and supportive environment with a mum and dad that encouraged me to have high expectations of myself and always to do my best. Unfortunately, there are still systemic barriers for women in the workplace. For example, policies on maternity leave, flexi time, etc., that is sadly lacking in many companies for women who choose to have a career and a family. And I often wonder how these policies would have looked if men could also have babies, because let's be honest, the committees that make these decisions are predominantly male. So if we do have the opportunity to make positive changes for women in the workplace, we should do so. I don't know about you, Essie and Berenice, but my experience is that a lot of successful women are made to feel guilty and judged for the choices that they've made. Our challenge is to be comfortable with our choices and to not defend it. We need to respect each other's choices. We cannot spend our energy proving to others that our children are fine. There's been enough research done and many reports written that suggest that actually children of career mothers are fine and most often very independent and driven to be successful. I've had many discussions over the years with my two daughters on this topic, and what surprised me is that they are more than happy for me to have a career and that they are very proud of what I've achieved. And that is also setting a very important example for themselves to follow one day. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of stereotyping of women and the traditional roles of women versus men. Like that women are the main caregivers of the children and is responsible for cooking, cleaning, doing the household shopping, and something simple as picking up the kids from school. What worries me is that in 2005, I did a presentation at a women's conference, and most of what I said at that conference is unfortunately still true today. All the evidence suggests that gender equality is not where it should be. And after many decades, it is still being debated that women should, for example, get paid equally for doing the same job as a man. Unfortunately, the reality is that not all women support each other. And Essie and Bernice and I had this discussion this morning. There are just women that don't want to see other women being successful. It is a tragedy for me that one woman would hold another one back. Because if you think about it, the more women we help, the more we help ourselves. And I've been very blessed in my career to have very supportive women in my life. And I want to name one specific one, Jida. Kudos, Jida. You've always been there for me along the journey, and I owe you a lot in my career. So in my experience, women in powerful positions are also often subjected to more scrutiny than their male peers and held up to higher standards. And I don't know if you out there have experienced that, but that's certainly how I experience it. I think one of the major obstacles is also that we as women are afraid to look weak and to ask for help. I think if you ask women leaders who or what is their worst enemy, you might find a lot of the answers to be myself. It is easy to convince ourselves that luck had a hand on our success and not all the blood, sweat and tears. What I've also observed of myself is that when something goes wrong at the office, I will often blame myself, while crediting others when things go right. So why are we so hard on ourselves? I want to share this quote from Ariana Huffington. She's the president and editor-in-chief of the Huffington Post. And she says, "The greatest obstacle for me has been the voice in my head that I call my obnoxious roommate. I wish someone would have invented a tape recorder that we could attach to our brains to record everything we tell ourselves. We would realize how important it is to stop this negative self-talk. It means pushing back against our obnoxious roommate with a dose of wisdom," she says. So what makes our liberation from these voices harder is that so much of the news and information directed at women these days seem to determine to reinforce our obnoxious roommates and make us feel that our lives are somehow lacking, even if they're not. So we are constantly made to feel that we should be prettier, thinner, sexier, more successful, make more money, always make more money, be better mums, better wives, better lovers. I guess, and when I reflected on this quote, I guess men also feel the same and have the same pressures to be seen as the perfect partners, husbands, perfect boss. So perhaps what is most important is self-love and self-appreciation, no matter what your gender is. So that's enough talk about the obstacles that we face in our career. I do believe that women are strong and powerful and that we can overcome these and many other obstacles and thrive in our careers. So let me share some of my thoughts on this. Embrace tough tasks and don't hesitate to put up your hand for those stretched assignments, because really nobody notices when you do an easy job well. It is better to challenge yourself by working to solve problems that no one else has been able to solve, to become a trusted leader. But that takes a lot of strength and endurance. Fortune favors the brave, so take risks. Be bold, set high standards for yourself and for others. Build a strong team around you with diverse skills and competencies. And don't be afraid to appoint other strong women in your team that can challenge you. I always say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Bernice will know I always walk around with my diary. I've got an electronic diary, my typo diary, my Tipex, my pen. I don't care. I like to plan, I like to be organized, I like to set longer term goals and milestones and to visualize them, because time really is limited, so we need to manage it well. This might sound also cliche to some of you, but go the extra mile. It's never crowded there. This has always been my personal motto for many years and has served me well. And that's also what I want to entrench in my team and also in my daughters. Always be prepared, whether it's for a formal or informal meeting. That will boost your confidence to ask questions and to be assertive. Act as a responsible and credible role model for other women and inspire them to be all that they can be. But you need to pay it forward. Be a mentor and coach to other females in your organization. But don't underestimate the value of having your own mentor and coach. You need to invest in yourself as well. Develop your skills and never stop learning. You need to have an inquisitive mind. Show interest in what is happening around you, because expertise do impress, and that will help you to become indispensable for your organization. What I've also acquired a skill over the years is to observe other successful females who I admire, because then I learn from them. There are just some beautiful traits that some other successful female leaders have that you can learn from. So do observe them. Be self-confident but not arrogant. Be assertive but without being aggressive. Be empathetic but not pathetic. Don't be emotional but have emotional intelligence. We had this discussion also yesterday. EQ is often more important than IQ in the workplace. Be supportive to your colleagues, but don't be afraid to say no. Otherwise, you risk becoming the go-to person to do the task that other people don't like to do or have failed to do. Also, you can follow a method that I call the 10 by 10 by 10 rule. When I'm faced with a big challenge or a problem and I feel anxious, I would ask myself this question: how will this affect me in 10 minutes, 10 months, or 10 years? And this just resets me and gives me immediate perspective on how I should move forward and reduces my anxiety. I always say, just because we are working in a male environment doesn't mean we need to act like a man. Embrace your womanhood. Don't dress like a man and act like a man. Be proudly feminine and wear it with pride. We are programmed to try to do it all and often end up depleting our energy reserves. So make time to rest and to build up reserves. Remember that you don't have to light your fire to warm others around you. Think about yourself and take care of yourself. And I'm saying that to myself as well, because I don't always get that right. Because we need to build resilience and press forward repeatedly. What is very important for me to confirm today is that it does take a village to raise a child. You need to build a strong personal network of relationships, of family and friends who can help you. And you don't have to be afraid to ask for help. I am very blessed to have a lot of friends and a great mother-in-law that helps and offer to help when I can't be there for my children. So create and define also your own distinctive personal style of leadership. Become dependable and reliable. Unfortunately, and I must emphasize that, and that is what Berenice has also said, is there's no shortcuts. It takes a lot of sacrifice, blood, sweat, and tears, but the rewards are really great. I do believe that women offer a different perspective and a way of managing people that can produce the same successful outcomes, or even better, and that we bring really unique qualities and abilities to the workplace. Recent research, however, backs up the idea that many men and women alike still feel that male-associated qualities are necessary for effective leadership over the traditionally feminine qualities like patience, empathy, and communality. One reason for this, I think, is that leadership has been looked at from a masculine lens. Most people automatically assume that women leaders must do the same things that their male counterparts do. To break through that mental barrier, which has been entrenched in us over decades, we have to learn what it actually means to embrace diversity in leadership. We need to create an environment where both sides of the equation are not pitted against each other, where women and their input are not merely tolerated, but actually valued on merit, not simply because a quota is being met or a policy being followed. Naturally, I think that women in leadership positions bring a lot to the table, but let me, in conclusion, summarize a few of those qualities. I do believe we are natural mediators. We are strong proponents of compromise and excellent learners. Furthermore, our emotional and caring nature encourages others to open up. We are organized to a T, as I said. The organizational skills that women possess are valuable when it comes to distributing workload and ensuring that employees remain on track. Patience is a virtue, and we tend to be more patient than men, although some of you might disagree with me. And like I said, we are perfect planners. We are forward thinkers, we love to prepare, and we always have a game plan. We value teams. We are known to value relationships with others. We bring this trait into the workplace that can result in teams building healthy teams and productive teams. And we are persuasive. Have your husband tried to persuade you of something, Berenice, and won? No, we are persuasive. We enable innovation. Innovation thrives when different ideas collide in an open, non-judgmental space. We are multi-focused, and I don't mean multitasking here. I'm talking about the ability to focus on many objectives, to see things in a nuanced way, and to notice the connection between things that someone else may have missed. We have all these unique abilities, but we must use it to our own advantage. Ladies, nothing will change for women in leadership positions if we don't bring about the change ourselves. We have what it takes, but we are our own worst enemy. We need to take specific action. A standalone diversity program in the workplace, no matter how comprehensive, is not enough to combat prevailing entrenched beliefs around leadership and women. There is need for systemic, social and organizational change to change these biases against female leaders. I don't want to make it sound easy, but we can do it. We have to change the way that we work, the way that we behave and engage. An us versus them approach to males and females in the workplace will not move us forward to true equality. I'm privileged to have strong women in my circle, and I learn from them every day. The best of me is still to come, and I pledge to pay it forward and to support the women around me. And I have something special for the two ladies here, a surprise. Grace, if you can bring it to me. I would also just like to take this moment to thank Grace. Isn't she amazing? I think Grace can start her own show, and we call it Amazing Grace.
That'll work.
So ladies, thank you for sharing this platform with me. I brought you each a shirt that you can wear proudly, or you can sleep in it. It's a size 12, and I know you're size 8.
We always are in our mind.
Thank you very much.
In conclusion, I would like to thank everyone that has played a role in my life up to here, and I want to send a special message to my friend in London, UK, Linda. Love you. Thanks for always fixing my crown. Okay, then I hand over to Essie.
Thank you.
For another inspirational message, and we look forward to that, Essie.
Good morning, Berenice, Marlies, Grace, and dear viewers. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I was asked to share my beliefs about the importance of building a personal brand and to share advice with women stepping into leadership positions for the first time. So let me start off by saying that you have to put conscious effort into building a personal brand, because in order to survive in this brave new world where any information is available at the click of a button, you need to be in charge of the perception about you that's out there in the cyber world for everyone to see. In fact, each of us with an online presence already has a personal brand, and at some point in our lives, someone will Google us to find out more about who we are. What is it that you want to come up first about you in that information bar? So building your personal brand allows you to craft this narrative to put yourself out there to an extended audience. Another way of looking at it would be to imagine, what would you like to be said about you at your 80th birthday, God willing? Just think about it for a moment. What do you want people to say about you on your 80th birthday? Now those messages are the messages that would reflect the brand that you invested into and built. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, was quoted as saying that your brand is what people say about you when you are not in the room. But with the internet, which has zero chill, you don't even need to be in the room for people to be saying things about you. In preparation for this presentation, I had to think very carefully about what my own brand is, if I am to have an informative discussion with you about the importance of building a personal brand. So I Googled myself. It's not the first time that I've done so, let me not lie. But it's been a while since I did so. And this is because I'm social media shy. My generation, I think, is social media shy, and I prefer to let my work speak for itself. But that said, and in this day and age, I recognize and am present to the value of social media in building a personal brand. So what I found from my Google search is not too shabby, but this is my personal brand. I am the daughter of a warrior and a healer. My late mother was very active during the fight for Namibia's independence, and my father, a respected specialist physician in the Caribbean. Being a daughter of strong and ardent Pan-Africanists, I was extremely lucky, given the time I was born in, to be exposed to an exciting world of different cultures. I also come from a genetic line of very strong women who were always ahead of their time. They were not scared to say what they felt or scared of speaking out during a time when it could easily have gotten them killed or imprisoned. So the genetic, strong, loud mouth, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I think it just dropped. They were willing to speak up about what truly matters. They were always at the forefront of Namibian human rights in some way or form. And that legacy and history is my foundation. My mother and her sister were freedom fighters, initially seen as terrorists, but later acknowledged as major contributors to this country's independence and development. Speaking of people I look up to, I could not mention the recently departed icon of justice, the late US Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. RBG was labeled a rebel and an anarchist in the 1960s, but because she stuck to what she believed in, she became a hero. So it should therefore come as no surprise that my legal career was based on the foundation set by extraordinary women. In fact, my mother insisted I study law. She said I have a loud mouth, I might as well get paid for it. Today I can say that my brand is built on over 25 years work experience with more than 18 years in the field of litigation. So here's some of the lessons that I learned during my journey that I wish I had learned earlier. And as with every human being, I made some mistakes along the way, but I believe that discomfort forces one to step outside of what is easy, and it's a prerequisite of growth. So I would not have become who I was today without making some mistakes and growing from them in some way or form. One big difference for me, as opposed to many of you out there, is that a lot of my mistakes were made before the advent of social media, and there's no digital footprint of that past. I'm very grateful for. The privilege for me, and what I've learned looking back, because I did not intentionally at the time set to build out a brand per se, is that despite the fact that my formative years were under the apartheid regime in Namibia, and having to forge a career in a white male-dominated profession, what eventually became my brand is the sum total of my parents' and grandparents' wildest dreams. But at the same time, it would also not come as a surprise to them, given the fact that it would be expected from me. That's how I'm raised. So, from building a brand perspective, the values that make up my brand were instilled in me both genetically and through social conditioning via education. My brand is a legacy brand. So before my mum passed on in 2018, she reminded me that her generation sacrificed their lives so that we could be free. And she tasked my generation to commit to creating a path for economic prosperity for Namibia and for Africa, since they fought for their political independence. And she tasked us to serve. And that's what I try to do in my life. So I think from my experiences, there are 5 core values or principles that I believe you should possess towards building a brand. It might not be everyone's idea, but it's mine. 1, what is my purpose? That is an introspective exercise. It forces you to look at yourself and ask yourself, why am I here? What do I want to do? What am I doing? Or why do I even want to build a brand? It could be anything from what is my contribution to this world to wanting some form of personal wealth or success. But there must be a purpose. Secondly, authenticity. Berenice and Marlies, you've both spoken about authenticity. And I believe it's really key because now more than ever, a person has the ability to communicate with the whole world. And dishonesty and inauthenticity, which is essentially an absence of integrity, is not something that you can hide for long because the camera generally doesn't lie. And it comes to light much faster because of the plethora of social media platforms and the immediacy of information transmitted online. So be fully authentically you. There's no one else. Thirdly, try to find out about what you are passionate about. What fuels your fire? What do I love to do? For example, I love the law. I might not love all facets of the law, but I believe that every single person is born with some gift or ability that can contribute to the greater good of society. Discover that's something that you are good at, and hopefully once you do it, it will impassion you to do even better at it. Now, I do recognize that, especially in this day and age, that you don't always have the privilege to do what you love when you build a brand, and you have to work at building a brand. So still be passionate about it if you can, but you will notice that someone who speaks about what they love sparkles a lot more than someone who doesn't. Fourthly, competence. This is really effective in brand building. I'm going to pause here. Make sure you can walk the walk and talk the talk. Get the education, get the experience, put in the blood, sweat, and tears like they've said. Really, there's no way around hard work. Trust me, we've all tried it. And don't be entitled. Unless you want to build a brand of entitlement. If you can't do the job and you make no effort to rapidly develop yourself to meet the demands, all you create is a brand of inefficiency and ineptitude, and also inauthenticity. And I can tell you there are many people out there that are hungry for your position. So do the job. And if you have purpose and passion and you are authentic and competent, there's one more principle I believe you need for success. This was not originally there, but I've spoken to a couple of people that I believe that are successful, and that's tenacity. Successful people don't give up. This doesn't mean that they don't fail or make mistakes or ever do things that they wish they hadn't, but they manage to use those experiences as lessons for growth. The principle that success is a journey and not a destination is applicable here. When you fall down, get up. And every time you get up, learn. That is how you grow. That is how you build your brand. A little note on the role of social media. In building your brand, and as I said, I didn't have that experience when I started out, but social media has changed the game completely. It's one of the most powerful communication tools in the world, as the recent Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, reminds us. Now, this film explains how we are being manipulated by social media. So my view is, since we are being manipulated, let's at least use the power that we have to write our own narrative. So my advice here is to deliberately have a social media presence, but be very discriminate about what you share, like, or comment on. Be conscious about how you speak to people, how you express yourself. LinkedIn is very useful, and it's professionally suitable for the development of your brand. I'm a little bit careful on Facebook, and even more careful on Twitter, because sometimes people can be so cruel, and online trolling is a real thing. I'm not going to expose myself or my mental health to that craziness. But that's a topic on its own for another time. Platforms such as Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, they also serve their role, but please heed the warning that they may be social, but they document your life. And yes, employers do due diligence background checks using social media. So think about what it is you're going to put out there. You want to get a serious job and your pictures are all you hanging out at the beach, then your employers are not going to think you're serious, and they're not going to put you on the shortlist. So at the end of the day, it's not about the medium, it's about the message. And what I mean by this is, if you have a healthy brand image, it will spread. On social media or by word of mouth. It's all about the authenticity that you put into your actions to develop your brand, always with the end game in mind, but learning and evolving in your brand. Now, advice for women who step into leadership for the first time. Berenice has given first-hand advice on that, and I fully agree with her. I mean, sister runs a bank. I would mention only 3 things which were encapsulated in an article titled 10 Principles of Strategic Leadership that appeared in the autumn 2016 issue of the online magazine strategybusiness.com that was emailed to me by my colleague on the board, Jida Sekandi. And I quote, "Lead with inquiry as well as advocacy, and with engagement as well as command, operating all the time from a deeply held humility and respect for others." One thing I'd like to add: when you are in a leadership position, delegate for succession. Find the diamonds in the rough, mentor them, grow them, because you're not going to be there, and you've got to leave in them the desire to carry on after you. A lot of people in corporate worlds find the intelligent people and sideline them because they do not want that competition. How beautiful is it to see a team of 4 or 5 people and everyone is a crackerjack at what they do. You don't have 1 or 2 people who don't know what they're doing, but they're there because the leader's not interested in appointing the person who actually can do the job, maybe because they have a little bit of a millennial attitude, for example. That also, completely different inquiry. One last thing that this article suggests, and I'd like to end with that, and that is that the strategic thinkers of the future are women. So I'll leave that there for now. We're going to be answering some questions that you have posed during the session, but before we do, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Stay tuned.
Let's take a walk together through precious milestones lined with fear and uncertainty. You learned, you bonded, celebrating life's little victories whenever they came along. You practiced over and over and over again, pursuing perfection, persevering through hardships, never losing sight of your vision, your dream of a better world, building relationships for happily ever after, shaping a brighter future for all together. No matter your journey, we are here with you every single step of the way, because yours is a relationship worth banking on. Bank Windhoek, a member of Capricorn.
Most of us had big plans for this year, like other normal years. But little did we expect that the goals for normal would shift greatly in 2020. Despite the confusion of the world closing shop overnight,
that old tractor is the least of our problems. I don't know how long these guys will survive in this cold.
life still goes on, presenting us with new problems to solve, whether we're ready or not. So we do what we know best. We innovate.
I have an idea.
At Bank Gaborone, we want to help you turn that spark of an idea into something greater.
I'll take 100.
Let the Bank Gaborone app help you bank easier.
Yes, you have it correctly, 800. No, deliver to Gaborone, Botswana.
Set your card and EFT limits to manage fraud, make online payments to local and international suppliers, transfer money between your accounts and to other banks, while you pay for your DSTV, buy airtime and electricity, all from your own small corner of the world. Don't be left out in the cold.
It's freezing.
When you have to plan for the new normal.
That's why I'm wearing my winter shorts.
While you're still learning to do things as simple as saying hello. Download the Bank Gaborone app today on Google Play for Android or the Apple App Store for iOS. Join the tribe of the financially free. Free to be, free to bank. Bank Gaborone, a member of Capricorn Group.
Wow, ladies, that was amazing. So much inspiration on our Inspire stage this morning, and really encouraging to me as a young woman, and clearly to many other women on our platform today. Someone says, when I grow up, I want to be just like you ladies. Mark my words. Another viewer says, we are learning a lot from this platform. We as women will start seeing life in a different perspective. This viewer is viewing us from Botswana. And then someone says, wow, this is a critical time in our lives. This talk is just mind-blowing and so moving. And Marlies, this is a compliment for you. Someone from Prisa also tuned in saying, we are so proud to have Marlies serve as our vice chairperson of our accreditation committee. What a phenomenal leader. So well done to all of you ladies. That was just amazing. Now I'm going to go into the questions for this morning. A few questions came in. The first one is, as an acting judge, this is clearly for Essie, as an acting judge of the High Court of Namibia, how can you inspire other ladies to reach for the stars?
I inspire them by doing what I'm supposed to do, by being competent, by talking the talk. There are a lot of women that are coming up in the legal profession now. I have a lot of female mentees, and I make it my mission to make sure that my doors are always open for them. They know. They will call me at any time if they need help. And I try and lead by example, and I try and make myself available for them as and when they need me, because that's, again, how I was raised. What you said on the outside, you must also say at home. Women litigators are more than men right now in general. So it's more important for there now to be more unity between the women and for us to grow together. So my advice to them would be, just continue doing what you're doing, ask for help. The legal profession is a difficult profession. When I started out, as I said, it was a white male-dominated environment. I'll give you a very, very short example. I remember when I just started practicing, I had a new client, and this client was a white client. He wasn't so sure about this, this black client. I'm like, it's fine, it's cool. And we go and we sit in a mediation room where everyone is going to come and sit. And everyone comes in, no one greets me. I'm there early, and my opponents come in and they sit down and They don't know whether I'm the secretary or what, and they just continue talking. But my opponents then start talking about the issues in their case that are affecting them or that are negative. So they're like, so when we walk into this negotiation, we must remember not to do this and this and this. So when the negotiation started, I said, good morning. I'm Advocate Shimming Chase, and this is how the negotiation is going to go. That client is with me today, some 25 years later. So the lesson here is sometimes people are going to underestimate you. I like being underestimated because that gives you an opportunity to show you how well I can do. So just continue to do your job, be competent, don't come into my courtroom unprepared. Then you'll have problems.
That was amazing, Essie. Thank you so much. On to our next question. What does Capricorn Group do to ensure that women are empowered to fulfill their dreams, careers, and goals?
Sure. Okay, let me tackle that, Berenice, and you are welcome to add. I think firstly and foremostly, there's a real good program at Capricorn for mentorship and coaching of specifically females on all levels. And we as executives are encouraged, I know Berenice and myself included and many other female executives have many other young females that they coach and mentor. So that is really a specific focus. And also there's a lot of leadership and other development programs where the bias is towards the female employees to make sure that, you know, if there is, for example, a group of 30, you know, that at least half or more than half of them are females. And Berenice, I'm not sure how many, but we have quite a few female branch managers in Bank Windhoek. So the females are coming through the ranks. You know, so it's about mentorship and coaching. It is about giving them opportunities. It is for the line leaders to give the females in their teams, you know, the stretched assignments to when there are big projects running, that they are given the lead on those projects. Is there anything else, Berenice?
No, I agree with you, Marlies. I think there are many development programs, but also it's also about empowering yourself in as much as your organization comes to the party. A lot is being done, and as you see in the Capricorn Group, women are rising, and more needs to be done. But a lot of development and growth comes from you taking the opportunity yourself as well. So it's a partnership between the Capricorn Group and the women who work within the Capricorn Group, and that's how you grow.
Wow. Berenice, we're going to stay with you just for a little bit longer. There's a question here directed specifically to you that says, when you began your career many years ago, did you ever imagine that you would be a leader in a male-dominated profession?
Yes, I didn't. I've never thought about the world in terms of gender. So when I looked at my career and I imagined my future, it was never along the lines of being a woman makes me less. And I think that's actually been an advantage. And I'd like to encourage a lot of women not to limit themselves by gender, but rather to see that, yes, it is a male-dominated profession, but I've never thought about it as impossible for women. And I think we need to let those barriers fall. We are capable as women, we are able, and we need to take the opportunities that are presented to us. So I've never looked at it from a gender-based perspective, but I am aware that many women do, and many women approach me and they ask me, you know, as a woman, or some people even ask me, you know, about my size. You know, they are shocked that I'm not intimidated. And it's not about that, really. It's about what you believe within yourself, and that overcoming those obstacles in your own mind first. And then, whether you're male, female, anything is possible.
Dynamite comes in small packages.
Indeed. Indeed.
All right. We are going to end off with almost like a bunch of questions here, focusing on mentorship. A few people have asked on tips and advice on how to identify a mentor. And more specifically, I believe, Marlies, you mentioned that you had a mentor. I think that was Jida, if I'm not mistaken. So a few people want to know, how about Berenice and Essie? And then we can just discuss a little bit on identifying these mentors.
I think mentoring from a mentor's perspective is not just sitting down and having chats with a person. It's an exercise where I believe both parties grow, because you've got to look into yourself and understand, why am I mentoring this person? What is it that I want to assist this person in achieving? And you've got to sit down with that person and ask that person the same question so that you can establish between yourself common ground to grow. I've always been lucky that I have always had my mentors, my mentees asking me to mentor them. In my career, I had a couple of mentors, white males as it were.
Yes.
I would say Dave Smuts was one of them. I learned an extraordinary amount from him. I was trained by Advocate Heathcote, Harbour Gaddis, Peter Koop. They didn't ask me. I didn't ask them to mentor me. I just went to them and they've got the knowledge, so I'm going to steal the knowledge. That's what I'm here for. And so I created my relationship with mentors by knowing that I need some information, I'm going to get it, but I created my mentorship with other people in a completely different way because I knew what was lacking. Your mentor should be someone that you see as a role model, someone that you would like to somehow espouse at some point in your life. And that is what I think you should think about when you look for a mentor.
Thank you, Essie.
Yes. No, I fully agree with the comments that Essie have made. I think mentorship is both formal and informal. And in my career, certainly I've had many informal mentors. In many cases, my bosses were my mentors, and they're mostly male. And I found that very useful, just looking at how they navigate the system. And in many instances, having the right mentor can just make you feel like there's air beneath your wings. They just sort of help you lift up a little bit higher and see the full picture. And for me, that's certainly been very inspiring. I also have a formal mentor. At this point in time, because I'd rather not share that at this point in time, because it's quite it's a journey for us. And I think the benefit of it is just being able to look at the world through somebody else's eyes and having the confidence to share and to be challenged, to be asked about how you look at things and why do you look at it that way. I think that certainly adds a lot of value. I've also mentored, and like Essie has said, I've been approached. I've been approached by many women, but I've always been very selective because it's an investment in time and in a person's life. So it can't really be volumes. It must be value-based.
Wow.
Yes, and I've seen the rewards and just the opportunity, but again, it needs to take as long as value can be created. And when you get to the point where you've achieved that value, it's time for something else or a different mentor. And so there's always a succession of mentors. But something I would encourage very strongly. The last thing is you also, in sometimes mentorship you learn from people around you as well. I've learned from colleagues. I've been mentored by talking to colleagues and learning from them. Even the people that you lead can teach you a lot of things. I've learned from people I lead, sometimes more than I would have expected. And it's been so refreshing to listen to someone and think, wow, that what this person is saying I haven't thought about, and it really makes so much more sense than my own idea.
Thank you, Berenice. And Marlies, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with Berenice, and like I mentioned in my talk, look at those female leaders that you admire and what they are doing. And just try and emulate that if you don't have the opportunity to be formally mentored, because as you say, it takes a lot of time and investing your time into a mentorship. So there are also other ways, that you can get inspiration.
Thank you so much, Marlies. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was Berenice Hans, Marlies Horn, and Essie Sheming Chase. From me, Grace Livindau, and the rest of the team here in studio. Until next time, it's bye-bye.